when the training camps were starting to get like more serious, when he was just training, I could watch and be around. But as they were starting to get real serious, my uncles called me a boxing encyclopedia, and I used to bother him during training camps. Like, Dad, why aren't you doing this? Or, Dad, you need to do this. Dad, da, 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 da. So that's what my dad just get on my face. Go to the room. They built a little room for me in the gym to keep me entertained.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, no, the preparation is key. A lot of young fighters, when you're up and coming, sometimes that's how you become that little dot on the map. You were just ready at the right place at the right time. One of the big examples I could give is when Andy Ruiz fought Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua had an opponent that fell out due to, I believe, injury. And last minute, this guy, Andy Ruiz, who nobody had heard of, came in and actually won. But the reason why he was able to do that was because it's not like they called this guy last minute and he had to get ready. They called him and he was already ready.
Gotcha.
And that's the difference between those guys. And that one time that you're ready can change your life forever.
No, when opportunity calls, right? Whether you're going to be ready or not. So.
Even if he doesn't accomplish anything else in his career, the guy can say he was a world champion, he beat a world champion, and he's a millionaire. He won a few million off that fight. And then that fight led to him fighting Anthony Joshua again. He lost in the rematch, but that was another few $1 million payday.
Gotcha. Now,
so him being ready that one time led to setting himself up for life.
So did you, when speaking of like payday, you did mention that your dad did hold a full-time job. Is that, was it that the fights weren't paying, or he just wanted to have extra cash in case something happened, or?
Oh, it was all the above. So he wasn't a highly scouted amateur. Usually the guys that are highly scouted amateurs, they get the nice little signing bonus. They get the promoter that help builds them up. My dad always had a pro style, so the amateurs weren't really his game. And so the first quarter of his career, so the first 25-30% of his career was without even a promoter.
Okay.
So he was climbing up the ranks just solo dolo, and then finally he ended up getting with Don King, where now he's getting the better paydays, he's getting the title shots. But he always knew that, one, boxing is short-lived. He had me. There was incentive. He has a state job as well. So there was benefits. There was incentives there. And if he doesn't cash in, then, then what?
Right.
So he always kept the job. And then on top of that, as you start to, when you're fighting 4-round fights, 6-round fights, 8-round fights, you can fight a lot. But when you get to the 12-round level, you're fighting at most 4 times a year, at most. So that's only 4 times in the year that you're going to get paid if you fought 4 times a year. My dad was fighting 2 times a year.
When do you get up to a 12-round type of fight? And again, I am ignorant in a lot of these. My knowledge of boxing is like Rocky and stuff like that. So I'm and you do see that they go the 12 rounds and all that. So when do you start going how does that even work? When do you
world championship fights at 12 rounds. So you start off at 4, you win your fights, your 4-round fights, then you go into your 6-round fights, then you go into your 8-round fights. When you're at the 8 and 10-round level, now you're fighting other contenders like yourself. You're fighting journeymen who have been at the top level. So maybe some guys who were once at a championship level, but they might be older and on their way down. Those are the guys that the young guys take advantage of and get during the 8 and 10-round level. And then once you pass your 8 and 10-round level test, that's when you get to your 12-round level.
So you build up to be able to fight 12 rounds.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming those are bigger paydays if you end up getting those fights.
Yes.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. How long does it take somebody to build up to get to that point?
There's no absolute answer on that. It's going to be based off many things. It's going to be based off number one, the fighter. How much do you believe in yourself? There's a lot of guys in this new generation who like to be babied. So it takes them a while. They're getting 20, 30, 40 fights before they even finally go up to that next level. But then you have guys that believe in themselves so early, like, for example, Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson, I think he's right now like 14-0, and he's already fighting at a 12-round level. Vasyl Lomachenko, in his like second pro fight, he fought for a world championship. But those were guys who are also highly scouted amateurs. Those were guys who were fighting at the Olympic level.
So you did mention like your dad didn't work with a promoter for a while. How important is like having a promoter? Like, what's the relationship there? Like,
Oh, it's like, so in any sport, profit and revenue is number one. That's golden for the owners, for the commissioners, for any sport. In boxing, it's got its political advantages being with a promoter. When you have a promoter who has a good relationship with other good promoters or other sanctioning bodies or even TV networks, because your fan base ultimately is what's going to lead to your paydays. A big example I can give is a guy who just fought this past weekend, Ryan Garcia. Huge, huge, huge fan base, huge following. The kid is already getting paid more than some world champions are getting paid, and he's not a world champion yet.
Is that like, do boxers do like any type of like social media stuff?
So
Like, with all this stuff up and coming, or?
the smart ones do. Luckily, in this day and age, our guys kind of know how to maneuver with social media. Back then, like, for example, if Roy Jones Jr. ever fought in today's era with social media, he would be the biggest thing around. Because I use Floyd as an example. What got Floyd Mayweather so big, so paid, was not just the social media presence, but he was on WWE. He was on Dancing with the Stars. He made himself bigger than boxing. He made himself where you knew the guy from, if you didn't know him from boxing, you were like, hey, that guy was on Dancing with the Stars. Or, hey, that guy fought The Big Show on WWE. Or, hey, that guy was in a music video, or he was on TMZ doing something stupid like burning money in a strip club. He made himself out there where you knew who he was, regardless if it was from boxing. A lot of the older guys, they didn't have that. The newer generation has that. So Ryan knows how to use his presence to the T. He's got TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. He does it well, and can't knock him for it, because it's going to get him paid. It's going to get him big money without even having to take the riskier fights. There's some guys who, because they don't have that following, the only time they're going to get paid is if they take a big risky fight. And then you got guys who, it doesn't matter who they fight, they're going to get paid regardless because their following is that big. When Floyd Mayweather can fight some 122-pound Japanese kickboxer for $9 million in 3 rounds, that's because he built that following that no matter who he fights, people are going to watch. Gotcha. Just like the McGregor fight. That was a circus act. That wasn't real boxing. But he got over $100 million for that.
Yeah, I watched that fight. That was pretty entertaining.
You're saying that you didn't really know boxing. You've seen a couple pay-per-views, but you watched that fight.
Yeah.
Because that's Floyd Mayweather's created that persona where it didn't matter if you liked boxing or not. You wanted to watch him.
Right.
A lot of young guys, if they can figure out that blueprint like Ryan Garcia has, that's what's going to lead to the good paydays, because this generation is they give more respect to popularity rather than talent.
Gotcha.
Not even just in sports, that's in music too. You'll have people who will say Tekashi 69 is a better rapper than Jay-Z. And we all know that's not true, but it's a popularity thing. It's the popularity thing. It's the numbers. It's the social media presence. So that's just kind of, some guys master it and some guys don't. Unfortunately, the people who are soft spoken and the people who are humble and quiet and do their talking in the ring, they never really get the pay that they're due.